Get full episodes of The Damage Report as a podcast on iTunes and Android, and you can watch the live show every weekday on YouTube TV. Donald Trump is not a fan, obviously, of migrants, undocumented immigrants, legal immigrants, unless he's sleeping with them. He's not a fan of them, but he's moving way beyond his normal position and justifying violence against migrants attempting to enter our country in a hypothetical that you'll see in this video.
It's the military. I hope there won't be that. But I will tell you this, anybody throwing stones, rocks, like they did to Mexico and the Mexican military, Mexican police, where they badly hurt police and soldiers of Mexico, we will consider that a firearm. Because there's not much difference when you get hit in the face with a rock, which, as you know, it was very violent a few days ago, very, very violent. That break-in, it was a break-in of a country. They broke into Mexico. And you look at what's happening in Guatemala, just to mention Guatemala, along with El Salvador and Honduras. It's disgraceful that those countries aren't able to stop this, because they should be able to stop it before it starts. And the United States pays them a fortune. And we're looking at not doing that anymore, because why should we be doing that when they do nothing for us? The
last 5 seconds of that video, his argument for why we're gonna not pay them, that is literally his argument for every single thing that he says. Whatever, okay, so he talks there about if they throw rocks, we're gonna gun them down. We're gonna massacre this group of moms and kids and elderly people if they throw rocks. What you look like you wanna say something.
I wanna say that there is a difference between getting hit with a rock and getting shot with a bullet.
The president just said it's the same thing. Okay, you think you're smarter than the president. What is the difference?
Well, I am smarter than someone who is not smarter than a third grader. But no, that kind of statement is so insane to me.
It is as stupid as a human can be.
Because it doesn't say in this, like by his logic in the Second Amendment, it should say, the right to bear firearms or rocks shall not be impinged.
Or in practice, if we were to say, you can't have any guns, but here's some rocks, now a Trump supporter would have to say, I guess that's basically the same.
Right.
Who needs an AR-15 when you can have a shiny skipping stone? It's the same thing, the president is saying that. And by the way, I know I'm joking there, but seriously, like he is saying this just days out from a horrendous act of gun violence, the worst attack against Jewish Americans in the history of our country. And he is effectively saying that if that guy had entered the Tree of Life synagogue with a bucket of rocks, I guess it would have been as bad. It wouldn't matter, okay? It would be the same thing, whether he has an AR-15 or a bucket of rocks, it's the same thing. That is ridiculous, that is absurd. And he knows we're in the aftermath, the immediate aftermath of that shooting.
And just this is a ridiculous hypothetical that is so far from even having the potential to materialize. And it is, the first ridiculous thing that he did, it's like an improv thing. You're like, you find the first unusual thing and then you make it a heightened unusual thing and you keep getting more and more ridiculous. So the first unusual thing he did was, I think the first thing was, let's send 5,000 troops to the border, and it's gotten bigger, that number, since then. But we'll send the 5,000 troops to the US-Mexico border at a time when this caravan of marauding people, in his mind, which it's not, it's parents with strollers and kids, is getting to the Mexico-Honduras border.
The extreme south of Mexico.
Which is 2,500, I think it's 2,500 miles away. Either way, it's thousands of miles away. So that is a ridiculous, unusual thing. The second thing is to say, I'm gonna end birthright citizenship. These are both parts of the argument both part of the rhetorical mission to make this about immigration, which he, in his mind, believes he won on from the beginning. You guys wouldn't be talking about immigration if it wasn't for Trump. Trump's the one who brought up immigration. Those are the first two unusual things. And this one is taking the aftermath of the first and second unusual things and making a ridiculous hypothetical that won't materialize for 2 months after the election is done. And the only reason he's doing it is to frame his narrative of immigration going into the election on Tuesday.
Yeah. So this is like an ongoing episode of whose campaign narrative is it anyway?
It's just, it's going off into crazy town.
Yeah.
It is
we're there.
So much further off the rails. What if these people who aren't close throw rocks? It wasn't asked, what if they throw rocks? He was like, are we gonna open fire on them? He's like, no, I hope it doesn't come to that. But if they have stones?
Yes, he is saying that our military cannot withstand, like outnumbering them with the best trained and equipped military in the world, they cannot withstand stones. If they do not begin firing, they will be overrun. That is what he is attempting to say. Thank you for pointing out the distance. It's like saying, well, there's people in Reno. Deploy the troops to Pittsburgh. We gotta head them off. That is effectively what we're talking about. You can check the distance, I don't know for sure, but that sounds about right actually. By the way, not that it matters again, because nothing matters, but his description of what happened to the Mexican military was not accurate at all. Leila Santiago tweeted, Trump on caravan, they've overrun and hurt badly Mexican soldiers. Just got off the phone with Mexico. They tell me 2 federal police officers were struck by rocks during a confrontation at border. Injuries were, quote, not serious or life-threatening. Because they're just rocks. So it's not at all the thing that he is implying it to be. I wanna talk a little bit more generally, but first, why do we care about this? Why does it matter that the president is saying a rock is the same as a gun? If someone throws a rock at you, you can shoot them. It's the same as them shooting at you. First of all, because again, his crazy supporters are listening to this and they now believe, well, what if Antifa throws a rock at you? You can gun them down. It's the same thing as them firing a gun at you. So expect more gun violence here in the US, but internationally, we don't need hypotheticals because we've already seen how foreign governments have picked this up. The Nigerian government, which fired on protesters recently, released this statement. This is a spokesman for the Nigerian army. This is according to the New York Times. John Agim said, they put out this video about Trump's quotes and said, we released that video to say, if President Trump can say that rocks are as good as a rifle, who is Amnesty International, who has been against their oppressing of those protesters? What are they then saying? What did David use to kill Goliath? So a stone is a weapon. They're saying that if the President of the United States says it's okay to fire on people with rocks, well, we're certainly going to do that too. And if protesters get out of hand, President of the US is saying you can gun them down. That wasn't like 6 months later. That was the day after he put out that video. Already foreign governments are saying we can use this to justify brutal, violent crackdowns on dissidents in our country.
Yes, and his logic is, I mean, he's made this argument that the other countries are killing us. Why should we do all this stuff? And a lot of it was Obama was leading from behind, and I want to lead from the front. But what you do when you make these kinds of decisions and present yourself in this way is you are leading the wrong people in the wrong way. And we have to be that inspiration. And as much as we've tried in the past to be that inspiration to other people and stand for freedom, yes, we've done terrible, terrible things. But now we're not even pretending to be the good guys.
We're not.
And that's terrible.
Because
also,
the supporters don't want us to be the good guys.
I said the border of Mexico and Honduras when I meant Guatemala.
That's possible. By the way, did you catch in that video of him really trying hard to pronounce those names correctly? I want to give him credit for that. Not to mention Honduras.
Honduras.
He was really pronouncing the hell out of those. One other thing I want to say, so I've said a couple of times over the past year or so that while I am, obviously I oppose Donald Trump and he's done a lot of horrible things, one thing that he had not done was really overplay a terror attack or like send tons of troops into Syria or something like that. Like he had been a little bit restrained in trying to use American foreign policy to rile up the domestic base, something that George W. Bush did many times. I was worried that Trump would draw from that same Dick Cheney playbook. And I guess it's taken me a couple of days to realize, but that is exactly what we are in right now. This is a wag the dog situation playing out in real time. But the funny thing is, they don't need a terrorist. They don't need a foreign country to go to war with. They can send thousands of troops against a non-existent foe. They can then say, we're gonna have to gun them down against non-existent weapons. All of this doesn't even require opposition. He can just pretend we're at war with something in the literal last days of an election, and we accept it as, oh, the president is just trying to protect America. This is the most blatant misuse of the military in advance of an election in my lifetime. We have got to oppose this and recognize what it is.
And it's not, this is a yearly caravan too.
It happens all the time.
It happens every year, and every year, 300 people get here. And every year, we have a process for processing them. And every year, they're not invaders. Every year, they're refugees, escaping some horrific violence at the hands of people in the country. that they're fleeing.
Yeah.
As a result of situations that, let's face it, America's activities in Central America over the last 50 years have exacerbated, if not created.
Yeah.
So, and again, it's you're seeing pictures of these kids being helped off boats into hopefully a better future.
Yeah.
And that same dynamic has been at play since the founding of the country, where Donald Trump's mom did that. That's what's so frustrating. And it's I don't know. And the problem is, like, I had a conversation with someone who is a financial advisor, who is a fighter pilot, and all of this rhetoric seems to be working on him. And despite the fact that he does not like the president, and he in the military said,
I still believe some of these arguments.
Yeah, he does. I don't want to work for the president. None of them would want to work for the president now, but still, like this fear of invasion by immigrant works.
Yes, but I will close this segment by just saying one good thing in terms of polling. When asked, is immigration a net good for our country? The people saying yes are actually at record highs. So perhaps there's a bit of a backlash going on to Trump and his rhetoric. Thank you very much for watching this clip from The Damage Report. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and ring the bell on YouTube to get notifications of our new videos. And of course, you can catch the full Damage Report live every weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on TYT Network on YouTube TV.